Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. Thank you everybody for your patience. This is the committee meeting for state and local government. We're going to go ahead and get started by having the members here introduce themselves. If you can start, Representative Farron.
Good morning. I'm Wayne Farron from Jefferson. I also represent Alna, Wiscasset, and Whitefield, all in Lincoln County.
Good morning. I'm Representative Dave Rollins. I represent House District 59, right here on the west side of Augusta.
Welcome. My name is Lynn Copeland, and I'm proud to represent House District 130, which is part of Saco.
Good morning. I'm Penny Phoebe Center, Senator for Knox County, which is all the towns in Knox County except for Idaho and the town of Washington.
All right, Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Representative Will Toole. I represent House District 10, which is Central Washington County.
Good morning. I'm Representative Kimberly Pomelo. I represent most of Standish, which is House 85.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Randy Greenwood. I proudly represent my friends and neighbors in Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
And good morning. My name is Sue Salisbury. I represent House District 128, which is part of Westbrook, and I am the House Chair of State and Local Government. We have two work sessions today, and we're going to start with LD 2092, if that's okay, which is an act to update certain terms and references regarding information technology and cybersecurity. And we have some information to pass out, so we'll go ahead and do that. Thank you, Senator Beebe Center and Representative Greenwood. They have to go attend another state and local government matter, which is happening in criminal justice and public safety. So end of session, people are in and out all the time. Thank you. Okay. And then just let Senator Baldacci in when you're ready.
Yes, he's not on yet.
He just texted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem. He just texted. So awesome. Okay, Kristen, we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just as a friendly reminder to where the committee left off on this matter, this is LD 2092, an act to update certain terms and references regarding information technology and cybersecurity. The committee previously held a work session on this bill. And at that time, the committee tabled the bill and granted permission at the request of DAFS and the Office of the Secretary of State for me to provide any assistance as requested from those two entities to potentially work on some items that the Office of the Secretary of State had flagged as possible concerns for the Department of the Secretary of State. That meeting did take place, and it is my understanding since the time of that meeting that there has been drafting actually that has been completed between actually DAFS and the Department of Secretary of State, and they are here present today if the committee would like to hear from them and discuss the items that I believe also were passed out on their behalf.
Okay, that sounds great. And I think Senator Baldacci is getting ready to come on. So if we can just give a quick second, we'll have him introduce himself. Hi, good morning. You're on mute.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Joe Baldacci. I represent Senate District 9, which is the city of Bangor and the town of Hermit. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. All right, Ms. Trendy, if you wanted to come up and talk about these changes, that would be awesome. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Anya Trendy. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. What you have in front of you is a very colorful child's art project of a markup. But what the intent here is that we tried to find common language between DAFS and the Secretary of State that essentially would codify what is the existing balance between us related to authority around IT. we couldn't get to language that we could both be comfortable with. So what I am proposing here is stripping out the sections of the bill that had given pause to the Secretary of State's office. And so we'll just maintain the status quo in statute with regard to those sections. The sections that you see before you in the markup that are marked as keep, what remains is sections that would allow the state of Maine to participate in IT purchasing opportunities that are made available from the federal government through the General Services Administration. So that gives us access to already vetted technology at affordable costs, and those are programs that are open to state and local governments across the country via the federal government. We just need authorizing statute for the state of Maine to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's what Section 3 does. Sections 1 and 2 is just updating semicolons and the like to add to that section. The next section, Section 4, allows the Chief Information Officer to procure cybersecurity services on retainer. The state of Maine doesn't typically procure anything on a retainer basis. We only pay for those services and products that we are intending to immediately use. But in the instance of a cybersecurity event, procuring from the point that you have already had an event on is too late. That puts you behind the 8 ball by a lot. And so what you want to have is a vendor who you have, and we would go through a competitive bidding process in order to select that vendor, but that they're already on board with you and they're working with your team from the moment that you identify that you have a cybersecurity incident, so that you are immediately responsive in terms of identifying the scope and trying to remediate the situation. And so that is an instance where we are looking to have the appropriate responsiveness by having that ability to procure that specific type of service on retainer. The next couple of things that remain in the bill are just definitions. So it's the definition of cyber attack, the definition of cybersecurity, and the definition of information security. And these are intended to tie to law changes that have occurred in the public safety statutes to recognize cyber attacks and cybersecurity within those statutes. So that's what those are. Those are identical to those, and that's just bringing those into the IT statutes as well. And then lastly, you'll find between sections 11 and 15, there's kind of a mixed match of lines that are crossed out and things that are kept. The things that are intended to be kept are highlighted in yellow. Other changes we will be foregoing because those make changes to kind of the scope of OIT's authority. So, but the simple changes here that we are trying to keep are just allowing for the Chief Information Officer or their designee in situations. So adding that or designee or the designee to language. Also updating references to the Division of Purchases, which is an outdated reference to that office. It is within so what you have there is a current reference to that within the Department of Administrative and Financial Services and the Bureau of General Services. And then the last thing is just to, on page 3, keep the language in D1 that adds developing written standards around information and cybersecurity policies for the state of Maine. But that is it. We stripped everything else out. And my understanding is the Secretary of State's office is good with this. And
Okay.
I hope you guys are as well.
Any questions? Yes, Representative Pomelo.
Question I have is, when was the last time the CIO position was actually filled? Or occupied?
The last time it was actually filled or occupied,
Mhm.
I think you're referencing the fact that the current CIO is isn't in an acting capacity. Is that?
I believe so.
Okay. I think that the current occupant has been in an acting capacity for about 2 years at this point in time. I don't know when the intent is to appoint, that's an appointed position. So one of the complications with appointed positions is oftentimes that they are hard to fill towards the end of administrations because of the fact that it requires people to give up their, particularly career people, to give up their civil service status, and the career benefits that they have had. Nick Markey, who is in the position currently, has been with the state for a very long time. I think 20, 25 years. So he is a career civil servant. And so that is often the calculation at the end of an administration, is that you could be booted from that position very, very quickly and unceremoniously, and, kind of upend your entire career. So he's in an acting capacity currently.
All right, thank you.
Representative Tool.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess to follow on with that question, so I noticed in the bill you made reference to the fact or their designee. Is that consistent throughout all of these different colorings and child art, as you call it? Is that consistent throughout all of that? That it could be the same thing could be achieved by the chief information officer or his or her designee?
That was, thank you for the question. That was something that the chief information officer wanted to add to provide clarity around that situation. The legal read of it is that the chief information officer and anybody has the ability to delegate responsibility to their subordinates. But the OIT statutes were written in the early 90s. At that point in time, they really never imagined OIT being a 200+ person division and it having a lot of very experienced, very technically knowledgeable senior staff, such as, dealing specifically with like carve out areas like cybersecurity. And so that is just intended to make it clear that somebody such as the chief security officer could act in that capacity.
And thank you for that. And I mean, and my follow-up to that would be to Kristen, if it's clearly stated throughout the bill that is the case throughout the bill for all provisions where it's applicable.
That was our intent. That's what we went through and did and tried to do, was add that to the instances of the statute where that would be appropriate.
Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you I appreciate the color. So I'll just say that, childish or not. I did have a question though. When we're talking about having a cybersecurity thing on retainer, I think that is a fantastic idea, but I'm curious as to the fiscal note on that.
So, there are existing resources for this, that we already have. And so, I think ultimately though, in terms of a situation in which you procure this on retainer and otherwise would be procuring this in an emergency service, the cost of doing it in an emergency situation is a lot more because they know you are desperate and that you need those services at that moment. And so it's a much more economical way to go about doing it.
Thank you, I understand that. But do you have a ballpark amount of what this would cost? So it's an annual retainer?
I think that that would depend on the structure of the proposal.
Can you give me a minimum?
I don't know. I don't know what these services go for, but what would happen is that we would run an open procurement. We'd issue an RFP, and ultimately the bids would propose what the contracted services are for, and we'd determine the best value based upon a combination of lowest bid and best services. And those sometimes there are wild differences in what you get for cost from bidders.
But so you're saying that it will be within existing resources?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Representative Rollins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm not being snarky or anything. It's just, I'm curious and I'm probably naive. So I would perceive that information technology and cybersecurity trumped everything. So why is it the Secretary of State's office is ixnaying all these paragraphs that the chief thought he wanted in the Clarity Bill?
So I think the Secretary of State's office may be able to answer this better themselves, but they have areas over which they have designated authority, particularly elections and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And so the attempt here is to not unintentionally step on their toes. They raised concerns at the public hearing. It wasn't our intent with the bill to expand our authority in a way that would violate theirs. But also in trying to find language, we couldn't find something where we didn't feel like the language was then going to impede our authority over cybersecurity and other things. And we just have a general concern about anything that is coming on to the state networks and systems, because that exposes the entirety of the state to the associated risks of that software, hardware, what have you.
I tried to read through a few of the picket fences, and it's hard to read some of the things that were cut, but Section 10 seems pretty much something you'd want to have. So she's going to come up, I know.
Yeah.
So that's what prompted me to say, well, why is this?
I think we may need to take another crack at it in the future.
Great, thanks. I was going to say that I think that we can have the Secretary of State's office come up if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you. Good morning. I'm Deputy Secretary of State Emily Cook. I'm the Senior Policy Director for the department. We in the department also deeply care about the same cybersecurity, other security issues that the CIO's office is responsible for overseeing for the rest of the administration. The only sort of difference is that we are under a separate constitutional authority. So our ability to choose the appropriate technologies, cybersecurity protections for the data with which we are entrusted and required to keep secure or public, whichever it may be, needs to rest with our department. We have the same goals, but since we are in the end responsible for those specific duties, we need to be able to ensure that we are procuring the correct information security, technology, systems to effectuate those duties.
And so just to confirm, so some of those areas that are crossed out now were areas that were added in. And so from the original bill and after conversations, those are what's taken out of the bill.
Yes, we had very productive conversations with Ms. Trundy just to make sure that we're maintaining the status quo on who is responsible for what. And if any of this language folks feel needs to be worked again, we will keep working with them, but this doesn't change what is on the ground currently.
Representative Rollins, you have more questions about that?
Well, thank you. I would just express a concern that has nothing to do with the people in place. So I want to make sure that's very clear. to me, a office like the Secretary of State, which is a political office, who knows who's going to sit in that chair in the future? Whereas the Chief of Information and Cybersecurity is a hired employee. I would want that person, theoretically unbiased, handling all that very sensitive, very risky access to who knows what. In lieu of some of the experiences we're seeing that can happen when political people take hold of seats. And that to have the Secretary of State on their own security, it seems risky to me.
So just again, to clarify, some of this wording was added in. So by taking it out, it doesn't change the current. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if that is your concern, you would need to change the Constitution and how the Secretary of State is chosen. And this bill does not attempt to do that. Yeah, I'll just add, we do have our own civil service staff, CIO. We have a very robust technology department, and that is a thing that I know we in this department take seriously under Secretary Bellows, and that is something that future secretaries of state can be asked about when they're running.
Questions? Yes.
Just to clarify, because I think you missed my point, it's got nothing to do with who's in place. So it's nefarious actors in the future that it concerns me about.
Other questions for Emily or Anya? Other questions about the changes being made? Okay, all right. So, I just wanted to say, what is our course of action or potential course of action, Kristen?
Certainly for procedure, at this time, there are 2 agenda items. The committee has
Representative
argued.
Rollins, if you can just keep your conversation on, it's distracting. Go ahead, Kristen.
The committee has established quorum, but there needs to be 7 members in the room presently, so we do not currently have quorum to vote on that
Okay.
piece. We do have a senator attending via approved means, so that does establish the senator requirement, but we would need to have 7 folks in the room. So at this time, if the committee did want to proceed to discussions of other items and withhold a course of action around any motions.
Okay. All right, we'll do that. We'll take a quick break so we can get Senator Peirce to come back. And did you have a question? All right, we'll just wait for Senator Peirce to come back so we can proceed with LD 695. Thank you for everybody for coming for this first one. Okay, so now we'll move on to our work session of LD 695, an act regarding the laws of the state of Maine. This is Senator Peirce's bill, and we did have some amendments that had come up in our last work session. We did table the bill. Thank you so much. All right, go ahead, Kristen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a housekeeping or maybe a friendly reminder to the committee where we left off, as the chair mentioned, LD 695 is Senator Peirce's bill. We did have a work session last Wednesday on this bill. At that time at the work session, the bill was tabled and there were 2 proposed amendments that were distributed. at that time. One additional proposed amendment, or I should say an updated proposed amendment, was introduced by Representative Toole. If my memory serves me correctly, that was emailed out to committee members under Representative Toole's direction on Friday. But a copy of that item that had been emailed is sent along. And I certainly will defer at the committee's direction if they have any questions about Representative Toole's updated proposed amendment.
Great, thank you. Representative Toole, did you want to talk a little bit about what the changes are here?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the 30-second version is last week. We also received some feedback from a group, Protect the Elections, or I'm paraphrasing there, that was some recommendations for things to be considered in the bill. While for a variety of reasons, some of those might be great ideas or not, they also may involve other committees of jurisdiction. That being said, I thought some of the ideas might be worth considering. And so I asked Kristen to work up an amendment that puts somebody from the Ethics Commission on the task force or working group, or whatever terminology we want to consider it, along with a member from the public. So it's essentially changing the group from 7 folks to 9. And Kristen has also made some changes for some technical wording around the amendment, standardized language for committees and such that are established. So those are the high points of what I proposed. And I think it is important to have all the players that are concerned about lawmaker and or candidate security, if you will, involved in discussions and involved in coming up with ways to educate and keep people that operate in this building or are running for these offices safe. So I think that's the direction I wanted to go, and I still believe is the best direction to go, and probably the least costly of all of the options out there.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Questions regarding, so we have 3 different sort of options today. Senator Baldacci, you had requested the tabling motion, I believe, regarding, we received information from the Protect Elections campaign coordinator. I didn't know if you had any questions or anything to add.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I do not have anything to add at this point, but thank you.
Okay. Any questions or any comments or? All right, so what are the wishes of the committee? I'll make a motion, ought to pass, with the, sponsors, wording that was presented at the first public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Yes, Representative Toole?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be voting against the motion. I appreciate the intent. I think it's an issue that we desperately need to address. In talking with folks, there are several reasons I oppose it. And mainly being, we have constituent services money currently that we can use with no strings. We get $1,500 to $2,000 depending on the office. We can use for any purpose. With that being said, we also have some real concerns about security, both here and at home, that need to be addressed. And so I'll be opposing it, but using my amendment as a minority report or maybe a majority report, depending how things go. So it's not that I don't appreciate where we're coming from. I just think there's a better way forward.
Thank you for that. And just want to clarify, our constituent services is $1,000. Just want to make sure.
Like to call for caucus.
Yep. Okay. Did you have something you wanted to say, Representative Pomelo, or?
I just wanted to say I do not support this either. I support the amendment that Representative Underwood had put in.
All right, we're going to take a break. Senator Martin has requested a corner caucus. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get back started. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We just took a quick break. We are working on LD 695. I just wanted to confirm my motion, and Senator Baldacci, I believe you seconded that. I want to make sure it's ought to pass as amended because this was a concept draft that has new wording, and we are changing the title to an act to improve safety in public service. Was there any, are you okay with that, Senator Baldacci? Thumbs up. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we're ready.
All right, the motion is ought to pass as amended for LD 695. I'm going to start with Representative Tool. What is your vote?
His mic's not working. Did you share this?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Representative Tool votes nay. Representative Pomelo.
No.
Representative Pomelo, nay. Representative Greenwood.
No.
Representative Greenwood, nay. Representative Salisbury.
Yes.
Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Senator Martin.
No.
Senator Martin, nay. Representative Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins.
Yay.
Representative Rollins, yay. Representative Farren.
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. I have 5 in favor, 4 opposed. So the motion passes. Is there a minority report?
We're not united on this, so I think there might be 2, but I can speak for, I think, Senator Martin and Representative Pomelo and myself. Our minority report would be ought to pass as amended using the language that we talked about at the last session. It would be referred to as Representative Underwood's proposed amendment, LD 695, the sheet that you have on your desk. And it also includes the bullet points that we talked about on mic at our last session. Do you need me to read that, or are you comfortable with this sheet right here?
As long as other members are clear, and this was a distributed public document.
Yep. And then I think there's another report.
Yeah. Okay. Just one point of clarification, Representative Greenwood, in the bullet points, some of the language says to carry. Could you clarify if the intent of this report is a concealed weapon or if a concealed weapon is not part of it? And if you could articulate, I just wanted to confirm whether or not it was a concealed carry
Yes,
or.
yes, it was a concealed carry. That would, do you want me to just do it on mic?
Your direction, the point of clarification was just from the bullet points that you alluded to was your amendment. I wanted to confirm whether or not it was the direction of whether it was a concealed weapon.
Yes, it was a concealed carry.
Thank you.
And Representative Tool, what is your report?
Thank you. My report is the updated amendment that Kristen distributed on Friday, establishing a working group study commission within the Department of Public Safety for the purposes of developing an education and awareness program for legislators and advising policy on how legislators both here and at home can better protect themselves within existing resources.
Okay, thank you. I have 1 for that motion, 3 for the other minority report, and 5 in favor of the motion on the table. Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Senator Parse, for that. We appreciate it. Great. Okay. I believe we want to, yes, Senator Martin.
I would like to know how the trip that you and Randy took to the speaker's office on the security issue we had with the representative from Topsom went.
You want to turn your microphone off?
Sure.
It went well. It went well. We were able to express both of our concerns about the events that transpired and our feelings about that.
Is he going to be reprimanded in any way for what he did here that day?
I can't speak to what action the speaker plans to take.
Okay,
Thank
I didn't
you.
know if he said something.
He did not. Right, we can go back to LD 2092. Okay, so again, this, we have received an amendment today, presented by DAFS, with the, input from the Secretary of State's office. And, so we can move forward with this. What are the wishes of the committee? Do it on mic.
I'm raised, make a motion, ought to pass as amended.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion regarding this bill? That amendment, of that, motion? Yes, Representative Green.
I just want to clarify, it's the amendment that we have on our desk, which is the colored copy with the keep, remove from bill, keep, remove from bill. That's on our desk.
The fruit salad.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. All right, I think we're ready to move forward. Thank you.
Motion on the table is ought to pass as amended for 2092. Representative Tool, what is your vote?
Yes.
Representative Tool, yay. Representative Pomelo.
Yes.
Representative Pomelo, yay. Representative Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Greenwood, yay. Representative Salisbury.
Yes.
Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Martin.
No.
Senator Martin, nay. I forgot.
Hello.
Senator Baldacci, I missed you. So sorry.
It's all right. Yay.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Representative Copeland.
Yay.
Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins.
Yay.
Representative Rollins, yay. Representative Farren.
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 in favor and 1 opposed. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh, yes, Senator Martin?
The minority report is that nobody's been in that position since 2023. And I don't see anybody in it now. So that's why I voted no.
What is your minority report?
That's it.
Ought not.
Ought not to
Ought
pass.
not to pass, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen, yes, I'm sure there's other things we need to do.
Certainly. If it's the will of the committee, I do have a number of items for a language review.
Please.
Thank you. I will get those passed out.
Okay, Kristen, we're ready. Language review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item I have for the committee's review today is LD 2042. And as a friendly reminder, this is on yellow. So this is initial OPLA language. So moving from the kind of back sheet on this, you can see members on this report. This is unanimous of all committee members. This is a committee amendment. LD 2042, an act to eliminate the requirement for municipalities to provide public notice in a newspaper. This is the ought to pass as amended report. The second page in the document, if it's helpful as a friendly reminder to the committee, I appended this to help for the committee's review. This was the basis of the language that the committee voted on for the amendment. This was the proposed amendment distributed by the stakeholders that the committee had asked to come to the work session with proposed language on. So you can see that I made very few technical changes to the kind of front OPLA language you see on the front. I wrote either action instead of the wording that says this is followed by. I put either action is followed by. And I also changed shall to must for technical drafting reasons. But those are the only changes from the language at the time of the vote.
Great, thank you. Yes, Representative Tool?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It occurs to me the bill has changed slightly. Was there a consideration of changing the title to even say to clarify? I'm just thinking out loud here, which is always a dangerous thing.
Thank you. Can certainly change the title as directed.
Representative Tool, did you want to add anything to that or what?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm fine with the language. I'm fine with the contents. I was just thinking it might be better to be a more accurate description of what we actually passed to say to clarify. And I don't know if that takes reconsideration. Certainly if it does, I'm fine with leaving it where it's at. I just felt that it maybe should be clarified.
Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would concur with the good representative from East Machias that the bill has changed in its original form. As I indicated at the previous session, I don't think the bill goes far enough, but I was willing to support a compromise when a compromise was here. But I think the title of the bill should be changed because we are not eliminating the requirement as was originally proposed. So I would ask maybe our analyst, is there a better suggestion for how to encapsulate that, either yourself or Representative Tool?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know, did Representative Tool, did you propose a word change?
I certainly will give it a shot. How about to clarify the requirements regarding public meeting notices? How does that work for folks? Yes.
Yeah, just change.
Just change one word.
Just change that one word from eliminate to clarify.
Okay, seeing the directive of the committee, that seemed to be unanimous, of changing that one word in the bill as printed in the title from eliminate to clarify. Certainly, it's always the prerogative of the committee whether something is technical or substantive. So it is always your direction of how you want to proceed.
Yeah, I think that's just a technical change. So I think with the agreement of the committee, yes, Representative Rollins.
Yeah, I just want to thank Representative Tool. That's a good catch. Because it wasn't on the front page of our stuff and it was a good catch.
Thank you. I will move forward as directed.
Okay, great. And next. Which one are we doing next?
Excuse me, LD 2180.
What? I don't have a 2180.
If you're missing a folder, they weren't in the files.
What is the title of such?
Yes, thank you. LD 2180 is the Civil Service Appeals Board. So it's an act to make changes to the laws regarding the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, Bureau of Human Resources, and the State Civil Service Appeals Board.
If none of us have it, that sounds like maybe they're filed in the wrong place because I don't think all of us took them. So that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may, I have, if it may help, I have the items that were distributed, or I should say I included the amended language that was distributed, if that helps, but happy to set this aside until folders can be, whatever the
Yeah.
direction of the committee may be.
Let's just set this aside for right now until we can kind of figure out what.
Okay.
Let's do just in this file, we'll find them.
The next item is LD 2214.
Right, so this is the act to confirm and finalize the boundary between the town of Kittery and the town of York.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is LD 2214. And as the chair kindly mentioned, an act to confirm and finalize the boundary between the town of Kittery and the town of York. This was an ought to pass as amended report, and it is a committee amendment. All members are on this report. The amendment was just the bill as printed, including, or the addition of, I should say, the addition of an emergency preamble. If the committee may recall, last week there was a public hearing on this bill, and the committee voted to move directly into work session and took this vote with the request to add the emergency preamble. And at that time, those in the report, I should say those making the motion, it's made by Senator Baldacci and seconded by Representative Salisbury, had articulated this language to be added as an emergency preamble.
Okay, great. Questions about this bill or any review in the review here? Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Um, 2138.
Okay, this bill is 2138, a resolve authorizing the Department of Administrative and Financial Services to convey the interest of the state in certain real property in Bangor.
Remind us what pink means?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so pink is when you see kind of the final version, when it has gone
is it.
through. And this one we're looking at, I'm giving this to members because this wasn't an ought to pass as amended report, it was ought to pass. But the fiscal came back. We had a fiscal note only request and there was no fiscal note required. So the report is and remains ought to pass.
Pink also means medium rare, Dave, Representative Rollins.
I didn't hear what he said.
I didn't hear it. Be aware.
Medium rare.
Medium rare.
Oh,
Okay,
also
here
means
we go.
medium rare.
All right, any questions around this? Thank you.
The next one is LD 2139. That is the resolve authorizing the Commissioner of Administrative and Financial Services to convey the interests of the state in certain real property in East Millinocket.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Baldacci?
So I just wanted to, now that we're getting through the language review thing, are these gonna be on the floor? Are they gonna be on the calendar tomorrow or it would be next week?
Go ahead.
Thank you for that question. So takes a little bit as a matter of procedure to report out. So my plan was to work with the clerk for any items that have signatures. So that's just also a friendly reminder for any of these, if there are any signatures or jackets that need to be signed for members. But procedurally, I do not think even if it were reported out today that it would hit tomorrow, it would more likely to be next week.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Representative Greenwood?
And I think just to clarify, I think everything we've done recently has been unanimous reports. So they're going to be on that other calendar.
Yeah.
All right, any questions regarding this? Representative Gramlich, did you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Lori Gramlich. I represent the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach, and I am the Assistant House Majority Leader.
Okay, great. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So similar to the last one, as a matter of procedure, this is LD 2139, as previously stated. It was a ought to pass report with members registering a vote on that. And similarly, it was a fiscal note only request, and it came back with no fiscal note required. So there are no changes to the ought to pass report.
All right, great. Thank you. What's next?
LD 2093, which is an act to codify and update a provision of private and special law governing temporary disability for state employees.
I don't.
This from some people on the same folder, but not
Okay, so this might just be.
If it helps, it's your bill.
No, but later. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is LD 2093 with the title previously stated. This was an ought to pass as report, unanimous of those registering a vote on the report. Because it was not to pass report, there's a fiscal note only request. No fiscal note is required. It remains an ought to pass report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about this? All right, great. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, sorry.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The next one is LD 1744.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is LD 1744, an act to modify provisions of the state civil service system governing employee recruitment and retention. If it may help for the vote sheet, this is a unanimous ought to pass as amended report for members registering a vote on the report. I have the bill as printed, and the committee may recall this was language that was developed. The committee had authorized direction for me to work with DAFs on the proposed amendment that was distributed at the work session that became the basis for this report. That has been appended in this packet. That is labeled as Representative Salisbury's proposed amendment. The committee amendment language that went through OPLA review has also been appended. So that's why this stack is a little bit thicker than some of the yellow ones that have gone out. And then the final language, having gone through the revisor's office, is on the top. There were a couple little changes. I'm happy to go through each of them if that may be helpful to the committee for technical or clarifying languages when it went through the revisor's office. One, for example, if you're looking at the very top page on line 24 and 25, the language reads, an agency or bargaining agent shall file a request for a recruitment and retention adjustment with the Bureau of Human Resources on forms prescribed by the Bureau. If you flip back to the language at the time of the vote that was distributed, it started with the Bureau of Human Resources shall prescribe the forms. So most of the changes were reorganization of language for clarity, or there was a question around, this is on page 3, around a clarification was 3 steps, talking about salary compression exceeding 3 steps. It was confirmed that that was in a salary grade. So some technical confirmation pieces were included as part of that final process.
Okay, great. Representative Rollins, did you have any questions? This is your bill.
Well, when I came out of committee, the agreement was that they were not gonna label it with a fiscal no. That they were gonna do it from the existing budget if it was a expenditure that could be contained in the budget. If it exceeded that, they were gonna come back to the legislature. And now I see it's noted, although it says minor cost increase of the general fund would be the fiscal note. I was surprised to see it.
And it says, and can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources.
I was just surprised to see the answer.
Representative Greenwood.
Yeah, no, I was just going to indicate that I think there would be a fiscal note minor, and the direction was to be absorbed within existing resources, which it was accomplished with this. So, yeah, I think it's fine.
Any questions regarding that language review? Okay. All right, LD 849. This is not a bill. We're doing a language review on. Is that, are we doing a language? No, no.
No, we are.
We are. Never mind. We're doing lots of things with this particular one.
Do you want me to say it like that? I think we should do.
Let me just talk to it from Dan's ear specifically.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get into the weeds of this, I think there might be a reason not to get into the weeds of this. How I've been working, or I have met with the sponsor, the good representative from Kennebunk, numerous times. We were trying to come to a compromise if there was a way to do that, because there's two ought to pass. There's two ought to pass as amended reports. We haven't nailed the language down as to what it should be. And he asked me if I would consider, ought not to pass. Well, obviously I'm on the other side, minority, so I can't make that motion. But he might have communicated with others that I think he's looking for a not to pass report, which would and then we'll start fresh next year. Trying to navigate through this in the short session, I think is difficult. But if somebody on the other side wanted to make a motion of, to reconsider, I would vote for that, and then I'd be happy to make a motion of ought not to pass, and we could, end this today.
Having been on the prevailing side, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you, Senator Martin. And just again, to reiterate what Representative Greenwood said, I've spoken with the sponsor, and he's, both of you have been doing a lot of work with Maine School Boards Association and Maine School Management and all the stakeholders. And it's just been determined that there is more work that needs to be done. The premise of the bill is good, but there's just more things that need to be worked on. So that's why we're reconsidering that. Representative Greenwood, did you want to make a motion or?
Motion and a second is on the floor.
All those in favor of reconsidering?
Unanimous of those present.
Okay, great. Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, having communicated with the sponsor, I will make a motion of ought not to pass. And again, that's not because the bill doesn't have merit. It's just it needs more work. And with our lack of time for this session, a motion of ought not to pass, and promise that it will come back.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that.
Madam Chair, I just have one question.
Yes, Senator Baldacci?
So the sponsor of the bill, Representative Sayer, is aware of what we're doing?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the questions.
All right, the motion is ought not to pass on LD 849. Representative Toole, what is your vote?
Yes.
Representative Toole, yay. Representative Pomelo.
Yes.
Representative Pomelo, yay. Representative Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Greenwood, yay. Representative Gramlich.
Yes.
Representative Gramlich, yay. Representative Salisbury.
Yes.
Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Senator Martin.
Yes.
Senator Martin, yay. Representative Copeland.
Yay.
Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins.
Yay.
Representative Rollins, yay. Representative Farren.
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. That's unanimous of all present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Next.
The only item I had that I believe the committee set to the side for folders was LD 2180. Happy to bring that back in the future if that may be helpful. I did append the one piece of language that the committee may need to see for that, but happy to set that aside if it may be helpful for a future meeting for committee members to have their folders.
What does the committee think? Are you comfortable going over with this information, or would it be more helpful to have the folders? Say it again.
Let's go over it.
Let's go over it. Yep. Okay. Oh, that's okay. We'll make sure that we get it, because this is the preliminary language review, so we'll have another one to go over it too, Representative Copeland. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the report that's unanimous of those registering a vote was ought to pass as amended. It was, just to help refresh folks' memories, it was to strike Part C. This relates to the State Civil Service Appeals Board. The official title is an act to make changes to the laws regarding the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, Bureau of Human Resources, and the State Civil Service Appeals Board. This was to strike Part C, and then the committee also included, there was some language that was distributed by DAFs. If my memory serves me correctly, DAFs had said there was some legal concerns that were raised with phrasing in the bill that they had just asked be updated. So in this packet that has been appended on the second page, that is the language that was distributed to me, and it's my understanding the committee as well, for the phrasing that they had said they had requested would be updated. So the motion on the floor at the time was ought to pass as amended, striking Part C, which related to the piece on Part C, you can see that on page 2. And then also on page 2, it's that language that was in the printed bill that began with "if the department or agency head." I apologize, some of the highlighting doesn't appear as well on the copying, but there was some reframing and reordering of that language, making it into a couple separate sentences. And that is the language that is for the committee's review here today, in addition to the striking of Part C.
Great. Any questions about this? Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the items for language review that I had today.
Okay, and I just wanted to talk to the committee really quickly. So we have one more bill that was just referred to us yesterday. It is essentially an errors bill to fix dates in bills that were held. No, is that the other one? That one's coming. What was the one yesterday?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yesterday, LD 2228, an act to eliminate inactive boards and commissions, was referred by the Senate, which was the second body on the floor yesterday.
Yes, correct. You're correct. I'm not correct. The chair is in error. So eliminate boards and commissions. And what we'll do is review some of the boards that have come up as potentially being eliminated. We're still gathering information. I'm still hearing from boards that are asking to please not be eliminated. So I'm glad we have a little bit of time for that. And again, out in the ether, there is another bill that potentially will be referred to us, which is an errors bill. So we do need to meet next Wednesday. Yes, and we do have session that day. So please take a look and watch for timing on that, unless anybody would like to pick a different day. Representative Greenwood?
No, I'm fine with Wednesday right after session, or 1 o'clock or 30 minutes after session, how that rule goes. But if we need more time, do we have more time? Because I know this can sometimes be contentious, this particular bill, because I'm sure you're hearing from people that say, "Oh, no, please don't. We just screwed up. We didn't do our report." But that's why they're on the list, is they didn't do their report. But is next week time enough, or do we need to go further out? I guess that's my question.
Next week is our time enough, our time extension. We received an extension to go to next week.
Okay.
So if we're not able to resolve it next week, we would have to leave the bill as it is and not move it forward if we weren't comfortable, or whatever action, if we want to take action on only some of the boards and commissions, or however we wanted to proceed. But yeah, we did request an extension for next week. So we're kind of right up against the wire there. All right, anything else? Any other questions? So please watch the calendar for next week. We'll meet sometime after session ends. All right, we're adjourned.